testimony offered at today's meeting. We have urged the public not to attend this meeting in person because of the COVID-19 pandemic and have ensured that members of the public can view and monitor the meeting remotely in real time by broadcasting the meeting on the Cook County website. All votes will be conducted by roll call, so each member's vote on each issue will be identified and recorded. So with that, I will call the June 9th order of the Planning Commission for Cook County to order. First item on our agenda is to adopt two sets of minutes from our May 12th and our special May 19th minutes, and if we can, approve and adopt the agenda at the same time. We've had a chance to review the minutes, entertain a motion.
I noticed that I was listed as being in attendance on the 19th and I was not there.
Very good. That notation.
And I maybe voted a few times, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I really want.
If you weren't there, well, any votes you made are out the window, I think. So
Okay.
we'll modify the minutes accordingly. Anything else? If not, they entertain a motion to adopt the agenda and approve the minutes of the May 12th and May 19th.
Mr. Chair, so moved.
All right, we have a motion by Jerry Henniker. We have a second to that. Do I see you talking there, John? But I don't hear you.
Am I
Yeah, you're real quiet, but now I hear you a little.
okay? Second.
Okay, you seconded it, John. All right. So we have a motion and a second to adopt the two sets of minutes and adopt this agenda. And I'll take the roll call here so that we can determine our attendance again. Adam Treefel.
Aye.
Jerry Henniker.
Aye.
Judy Maschenbacher.
Aye.
I myself, Charlie Laboda.
Aye.
John Schlute.
Aye.
And Chuck Anderson is not here. He's in the hospital, had some surgery earlier this week. So doing well, I'm told. Okay, moving on. We have some ongoing or old business. If you recall, last month, we sent a recommendation to the board on the Jacob, what is it, Ling Gang. And he and the board has referred that back to us with, as you probably noticed, a few questions that they had. Bill, do we have a staff report on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that was from the May 25th Board of Commissioners meeting. And the Planning Commission's 4-to-1 recommendation was presented to the Board of Commissioners. And there was considerable deliberation / vacillation on their decision, and what they wanted to do was to generate more information regarding the specific line gang request. And what they did is they provided 4 of the 5 commissioners provided questions for the Planning Commission with the instructions that as old business, you guys are to generate a response to those questions, which will then be forwarded to the Board of Commissioners probably over the next couple of weeks whenever their agenda opens up. So the assignment here is, and you should have received the questions that were generated, is to go through those on an itemized basis and at least get some sort of response so Land Services can generate a more concise narrative for the Planning Commission's response to their questions.
Okay, thank you. It's interesting. I've never heard of this before, quite in this manner. I have read all of the questions, and I didn't generate anything new out of that. I think, well, first of all, let me just state this, that for the public and for anyone, we did have a public hearing at the last meeting. We took public testimony. So that portion is done. We have completed that. Now we have the information that's been presented to us, and we presented to the county board, and the board has asked us, take a look at that information and any other information that I guess staff would present to us, because they ask for plans and things such as that. Well, I'm not generating drawings and plans. There were some in the original application. Perhaps they could have used some more dimensions in there or something, but commissioners, you folks,
Did the county board deny this request or was it tabled?
It was.
I was just going to say it was not denied.
Yeah, it was remanded back to the planning commission.
Okay, so the
With-
decision was not made, is that correct?
right, they're looking for more information is what I think.
Yeah.
We want to know some more things. Bill?
And Mr. Chair, if I can just kind of cut in here. I read the questions too, and actually a lot of the questions were kind of integrated into the narratives that were presented to the Planning Commission and to the Board of Commissioners. So some of this might be kind of an old response or rehashing a topic that's already been digested. But I think in the situation of instructions from the Board of Commissioners, we should itemize a response or either a not applicable or
Sure.
Something to each of the questions, just because that was their instructions to this body. So I think it's best that we just do that and be done with it.
Well, I
That will
haven't,
be
I pulled it up and I have it in front of me now. And the first one I see is from David Mills. And he asks, says, I would like address complete detailed drawings with dimensions of kennel and waste compost as setbacks. The drawing we have is the drawing we have. It's in the plan. Unless somebody's got a new one today, and I'm not sure we're taking any new evidence in here at this point. So, there is a drawing there, and it does have some dimensions on it. Mr. Lane.
And Mr. Chair, that's a very valid point. I did receive probably 45 minutes before the start of this meeting, an email forwarded to me by Chairman Mills. And in fact, Mr. Leingang did provide more information with site depictions and things like that. But you're right, those concepts of dimensions and spatial arrays was provided as part of his original process. So I think the response that the Planning Commission can provide is that this has been updated.
Okay. The next point here is further discussion about the volume of waste per dog.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Charlie.
I guess I'm looking at these questions and believing that if we're going to provide any additional information, we do need input from the applicant. The applicant had requested to be postponed to the next meeting so that he could be able to answer some of these questions for us.
Okay.
What's your thought there?
So the situation is he is not available tonight, but would like to be a part of the discussion. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Mr. Lane, we have a timing situation, I believe. Are we not here when a CUP has been applied for? Somebody has to take action within a certain limited amount of time.
Well, yeah, there's a 60-day window on that per
Mhm.
Rule 15.99. And to Commissioner Laboda, the fact that this is old business, Mr. Leingang's next opportunity to present his facts, including updates to that, is going to be at the Board of Commissioners meeting. He gave a late voicemail to me regarding request to postpone this hearing, and that isn't our decision. The decision was made by the Board of Commissioners to generate these responses to their request. So I mean, yeah, I understand the
Yeah.
dilemma of him feeling he needs to be here, but that isn't what is following under the Board of Commissioners instructions.
I understand. what
And
you're saying, though.
technically, we aren't rehashing the request. We're just kind of providing more information in that regard. You
Yeah,
guys
well,
already approved it.
Yeah, I think all we can do is look at the information we have and answer their questions as best as we can with what we have. I think the questions are all answered in the information that we have. Maybe not to someone's satisfaction or not, I don't know, but let's just quickly run. We could talk about this, I think, for a long time. So let's just run through these quickly and see if we can come up with a response. The dog waste, yeah, okay. I don't know, one pile a day, I would guess. But I don't know how you do that. The number of dogs.
We could get it, there is studies on dog volume versus horse volume and studies on horse volume. And the real answer is that the dog waste is negligible.
Yeah. I shouldn't minimize it, Charlie, but I guess that's what I was saying. It seems like I've worked with horse barns and, you know, this is a shovel full a day compared to a manure loader a day, I think. Mr. Lane.
Mr.
And
Chair.
Mr. Chair, and just to follow up on Commissioner Laboda, in 1997 and 98, Cook County did generate a study on impacts, chemical and nutritional impacts from dog kennels. And the key, and this is probably relevant going forward, but it's you know, this has been in the dark file folder for a while. I was on the Kennel Commission in 2009 or whenever it was in play, and we didn't have access to these studies. But basically, the nutrient impact is lessened with more active composting, things like that. There seems to be a pretty quick ability to for the landscape to recover from those localized impacts. But that's all, you know, it's a scientific based study and not part of this process. And I think ultimately that discussion needs to come back to the Board of Commissioners because it's relevant information, but it wasn't necessarily incorporated into the Kennel Committee or the Kennel Ordinance. So, so dogs go to the bathroom.
We have the information.
It has the,
Yeah.
to introduce.
That's what we have. We don't have new information to give them. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Mr. Henniker.
I'm a little confused about what's happening here because the petitioner has requested delaying this. We don't really have much new information. We made a decision based on the criteria that we set forth, and we approved it and we sent it to the county. The county didn't like the sufficiency of the information. They've requested more. The petitioner may provide that. We don't need to. We made a decision. And I don't think that sending it back to us is going to cause us to change our decision. And so I'm not sure why we're even debating this. I'm not sure why the county wasted time sending it back to us. That's not our mission to reconsider what we've just decided. Why are we doing this?
Within reason, I agree with Jerry. I think this is not really appropriate to be doing. We have put our time into understanding this application in the first place, and now it's being kicked back to us by, because I'm trying to say this delicately, but our commissioner representative did not, although she's entitled to any vote she wants, that's her prerogative, but it appeared she did not represent our commission's findings to the board.
I have a comment. I think we would have to have another public hearing if we brought in new material, because everyone should have the right to hear and comment on it. So it'd be a re-advertising, a redoing, and a re-public hearing. If we could, if they don't understand what we sent them, we could explain that. And that's, I think, what we're trying to get through.
That's all I believe. That's all. That's what I was saying what you're doing. We can only have what we have. and we sent what we have to them. We can take what we have and answer the questions and put it in 10 steps. Here it is, but it's what we have. Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to step out on a limb here. At the May 25th meeting, my presentation was based on the Planning Commission made their recommendation. It was based on a deliberate review of the facts and the application. It met the criteria from the ordinance that we have to work with, and that to undermine that 4-to-1 recommendation of approval kind of flies against the grain of this body. And so just so you know that I did advocate for the vote to the Board of Commissioners, and we're back here. And whatever Mr. Henniker and Mr. Laboda have said is not too far off from where Land Services is on this issue right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of, as Jerry said, I don't know why we're doing this either. It is, I understand why, because people are being pressured to seek more information. We
Can I
don't
just
have any
have-
more information.
We just go through
Yep.
the questions, answer as best we can and send it back.
Let's do that very quickly. Let's just do that. We don't have to, these are not debatable things. These are just things that they're asking
Right.
very simple questions. How did you get the 45 dogs? That was the applicant's decision. It's explained. He explained it to us. That information is readily available for anybody that wants to look at it. How did we get to 25? That's the same thing. Land Services recommended 20. They came to a compromise of 25 to allow for some pups in there. That's how we got to that. That was, we go on. Different types of kennels. Is this a racing, guiding? We don't, I don't know that that's
doesn't
not
matter.
our prerogative either. It's a kennel and it's going according to the kennel ordinance. We didn't ask about racing or what you're going to do. Let's see, it appears the kennel yard is mostly within a wetland resource. Shifting it might do this or might, those are all mights. The application and the recommendation we made with 8 conditions deal with that. It says it can't be in the wetland. So that wetlands aren't the real issue for me when it says you can't do this in the wetland. Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is concurrent with your discussion now. And it's part of both Chairman Mills and Commissioner Hawkins' request for information regarding wetlands. And it isn't the burden of Land Services to provide an assessment of the wetlands. In order to do that, that's the burden of the applicant/property owner. So if that does become an issue, Mr. Leingang would probably be requested to conduct a wetland delineation. That's the end of that topic.
Mm-hmm. Right, that's it. The permit says you got to avoid. Okay, that's the wetland portion. We're back. It gets back to the 45-20 dog. Whether it's going to be a racing thing someday in the future, we're dealing with the next 2 years of 25 dog kennel establishing. We're talking about 45 dogs on the size of the parcel. Again, he did emphasize situation does not appear to be setting a kennel operation up for success. Well, once again, I don't know about that. This gentleman is referenced and has references from veterinarians and others that he's a good operator. I don't know other than that. That's Mr. Mills' questions. The next one I have here is from Commissioner Sullivan. It would like a drawing of the specific location of Leingang's home and other planned improvements, well, septic, along with the dimensions and location of the dog yard is needed. Well, he does have those on a plan. I don't know how good the dimensions are. They are, once again, the dimensions we have. We don't have more than that, so I can't give you that drawing. This drawing should also indicate setback from County Road 14, setback from Franks Way 25 to the side lot. Well, of course, if he builds a home, he has to meet those setback requirements. That's another permitting other than us. Given huge concerns about wetlands and the protection to afford the Cadoon, whatever we would call that, detailed location and information about the size of the berm and how the volume of waste for 25 dogs will be handled is absolutely necessary. I think where there's an indication of where the berm is, and I assume staff works when you permit something of that sort, Mr. Lane, that the staff does look and make sure they have an adequate berm.
Yes, and it's based on a general erosion sediment control formula for
Right.
evaluating the run, the amount of land that's
Yeah.
collecting, the slope, that sort of thing.
Engineering standards are used. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Why was the number increased to 25 dogs when the recommendation was made from land service to have maximum of 25? Well, after much discussion, it was a compromise number to allow for puppies. I think that's in short, but that would be a half-hour discussion, and that's where we ended up. How do you intend to measure noise? I don't intend to measure noise, but if someone wants to, I think Land Services has measurement capabilities, and
Believe
decibel
it's
meters are
used for the statute
inexpensive.
70/30.
Mr. Lane,
Yeah, Commissioner Laboda is correct. It is Minnesota Rule 7030,
70/30.
which has criteria for measurement. It includes the implementation protocol, things like that. And I believe a kennel would be in the class, number 3 classification for use as a recreational use. We did it in 2008 for as a prelude to the Prejean CUP.
And I just
70/30.
included that question because a number of people had asked how that would be measured.
Okay, yeah.
So I could respond to them. Yeah.
There's a standard for doing it. I took a noise case on highways all the way to the Court of Appeals. County lost, by the way, but we had fun. I know a lot about noise.
I have
The
a
bit-
com- I have a comment on the 5 dogs. As I remember it, I suggested it. And the reason being, rather than just shut it down, give the person a chance to do it right.
Right.
And the,
Seemed like a reasonable compromise.
in the interim permit was an opportunity. If he's not going to do it well and keep the neighbors happy, he has no permit. So
Yeah.
that was that discussion.
Yes, yeah, it was a reasonable compromise. Right.
Right.
Okay, what's left here? Noise, the neighborhood is changed. It may be changing. I don't doubt that. Not certain because it historically has been, whether a 7-acre skinny parcel is appropriate. I don't know that either, but I just look at all of the regulations that are set forth, and we tell them in this permit, in this recommendation we set forth, he has to meet all of these in order to have the kennel on that property. And that is all of the rules that are set forth. So I don't know if he can do that, truthfully, but that's his job to do it. We just recommend. Okay,
Right.
that's Commissioner Sullivan. We got a couple more, didn't we? Jenny Storley. My concern remains about a kennel on a small piece of land, required setbacks, runoff to announce no well on site yet taking up land. It's basically a spatial thing, which is what we've been addressing there. Is there one more? No, I don't have another. I thought, I don't even know the commissioner's name, but Hawkins, is it Stacy Hawkins? I believe she had a comment somewhere and I don't seem to have it here.
Well,
Anybody
it's at the
remember
very
that?
top, very, very top of that 6 pages.
Oh, yeah, here she is. Okay, up above Tim's. It was mentioned that Mitt Travis had revised the wetland concerns of the property. I'm wondering if it would be possible to have a GIS map that shows the property with lines drawn, showing where the setbacks are and also where the current structure and wetlands concerns lie. I'd like to see a map that shows the dimensions of the area and where the dogs would be in relation to the pond and where the suggested berm would be placed. Also, I'd like to better understand how condition 8 allowing an expansion of 45 dogs would impact the wetlands. Well, that part of it I can answer. Condition 8 just references maybe someday if you're nice, you could. It doesn't give you any rights. Condition 8 may apply for a new IUP or CUP. This one doesn't even continue. It's a new one, and they requested an expansion. So this is a permit for 1.5 years for 25 dogs.
Right.
Okay, that's it. That's what I've got. I don't know, folks. They might want to throw somebody else in here. Or are we moving on?
New business.
Okay. Shuffle paper here. All right. Okay. Mr. Lane, the Katajamaki is withdrawn, is that correct?
Katajamaki and Bluefin have both withdrawn.
And Bluefin are both withdrawn. All right. Very good. So we jump to item C, Cook County Highway Department's request for a conditional use permit to conduct grapple operations on a county property adjacent to Maple Hill Drive. Legal description is the northwest one quarter of the southwest one quarter, section 4, township 61 north, range 1 east, PID 53104320. Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Engineer Haas is present for this request here this evening. This is case 2021-7 CUP. The Maple Hill Pit was deeded to Cook County as part of the Federal Land Exchange in 1983. Parcel includes 39.78 acres and is entirely contained within the park zone district. This has several definitions attached to it, non-conforming land use and a discontinuation.
Excuse me, Bill.
Non-conforming land use.
Excuse me, Bill. Are you cutting out for everyone? I could barely get what you were saying. Robbie, you're nodding yes.
Yeah, I can't hear him at all.
Adjust your speaker or I don't know something, Bill. You were just really garbled. We couldn't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it says I'm good. Do you hear me?
Yeah,
We
you're
can hear
better
you
now,
real
yeah.
well. I think it might have been coming from some other source.
Yeah, you're good. You're good, but you're stationary and not moving and not talking, so. Oh,
Okay, so I introduced Engineer Haas
yes,
and the discontinuation of it. Are we good here? Because I'm getting a lot of like delayed feedback.
yeah, you're not very good. We hear you for a moment and then you're all feedback and then we get you back for a moment.
Yeah, and I'm hot spotting here, so let me.
You sound good now. Don't move.
Okay. So how are we?
Good.
Okay, so I will try and maintain this position for the next 3.5 hours and speak clearly and with purpose. And that's all we can do in land services. So this is a request, and let me just give you kind of an overview. This pit has been around since 1983. During the course of at least 4 engineering tenures here in Cook County, then planning and zoning and now land services have requested the county highway department update their use at this pit to include permitting. And the reason why we would have been somewhat insistent on this is because everybody else who does a gravel pit that isn't grandfathered in has to get a permit. And under the 3 preceding engineers, that was never came to fruition. So with Mr. Haas's introduction as the county engineer and his associate Josh Dix, we engaged in discussions to engage the county highway department in the permitting process. And that's why we are here today. The pit is going to be subjected to same environmental concerns and protection measures that any other privately permitted pit is afforded. And I'm just going to go right into the considerations. I hope you can still hear me. I just need a nod. Yes.
You're good.
Okay. That makes me very, what's the opposite of happy? Kidding. The Maple Hill tax forwarded tract came under county jurisdiction as part of a 1983 federal land exchange. Since then, the parcel has served intermittently as the source for mined gravel products, including pit run, gravel crush materials, and surface binder. Although a permit allowance for gravel extraction on the site has been suggested by past CCHD personnel, Land Services was unable to document such authorization, and accordingly, the property has been categorized as a discontinued non-conforming land use. That is, there were periods of non-use exceeding 12 months, which is extracted from section 9.02B of the Cook County zoning ordinance. The importance of the pit as a gravel resource for the county cannot be understated. First, the pit is logistically crucial and centralized for current and projected construction and maintenance projects. Second, the gravel resource on the parcel has effectively been underutilized. These factors alone become more relevant given the very real scenario that gravel resources are and will be a limited Cook County resource. Hydrology is present on the eastern portion of the site, and 2 retention ponds have been constructed to address off-site transport of sediment. In 2013, that same hydrology resulted in complaints from adjacent property owners about the introduction of sediment and site discharge into the Little Devil Track River. The remainder of the site is forested and largely undisturbed. The adjacent property mosaic is dominated by county jurisdictional ownership and includes private recreational, residential, and commercial land holdings. Geology in the area is represented by a mix of relatively flat hydric areas, perennial and intermittent drainages, and eskers. The Edwin Thorson pit is approximately 1/4 of a mile to the west. In their application, the CCHD has identified most of the critical components of gravel pit operations, including excavation plans, erosion and sediment control, and restoration. They acknowledge the residential landscape in the area and have attached self-imposed constraints to their operations. Land Services has advocated for the permitting of the Maple Hill pit with the last 3 county engineers, and so the forwarding of this permit to the Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners affords regulatory transparency to both the public and private sectors. Following conditions may be applied to this conditional use permit. 1, the CCHD pit shall be reviewed annually by the Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners as described in section 10.06B1 of the Cook County zoning ordinance. 2, extraction and mining related activities shall conform to all requirements of section 10.06 of the Cook County zoning ordinance. 3, it shall be the responsibility of the CCHD to include the Maple Hill pit under allowances of their MNG 49 state of Minnesota permit. 4, hours of operation shall be limited to 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. 5, no more than 5 acres of the pit shall be open at one time based upon the following definition. Open area includes all portions of a gravel pit where pre-existing vegetation has been removed, topsoil has been stripped, and excavation with stockpiling has begun. Areas intended for travel and or equipment storage do not constitute open area and are not included in the open area calculations. Number 6, all large site stormwater components identified in sections 5 and 6 of the Cook County Stormwater Ordinance shall be submitted to Land Services and must be approved prior to the onset of additional site activities. Number 7, excavation shall be limited to areas specified on the site plan. Pit areas depleted of gravel resources yet remaining open shall be restored, including the reintegration of topsoil and the establishment of vegetation per the site restoration plan. 8, a minimum 50-foot setback shall be maintained from property lines. No gravel, soil, or vegetation shall remove from the setback area. 9, a minimum 20-foot setback shall be maintained between upland and wetland interfaces. 10, no vegetation shall be removed and no landscaping alterations may occur within the property line or wetland setback areas. 11, all topsoil stripped to exposed gravel shall be stockpiled and must be utilized on the site for restoration. It may not be transported off-site. 12, final grades of restored slopes shall be representative of adjacent undisturbed slopes. 13, crushing shall be allowed on the site, but must conform to applicable state laws, including Minnesota Rule 7030. 14, hot mix asphalt operations shall require an amendment of this permit. 15, wash operations shall require an amendment of this permit. 16, a spill management plan shall be submitted and approved for any spill of hazardous materials. Spills of over 5 gallons must be reported to Land Services and the MPCA within 24 hours of discovery. 17, during pit operations, dust suppression shall be applied proactively within the pit and along travel corridors leading to and from the pit. 18, the violation of any condition of this permit shall be grounds for revocation of that permit and allowances therein. 19, vegetation shall be reestablished upon termination of the permit or completion of mining operations per the site restoration plan. 20, public access to the pit shall be restricted by either lock gates or other access impediments. 21, sanitary facilities shall be provided on site and shall meet Cook County septic compliance requirements. We sent out 12 letters of notification and public notification in the Cook County News Herald, and we received no comments from the public.
Thank you, Bill. Hey, Mr. Huss, do you have anything you want to add to Bill's narrative before we move on with public comment?
No, that was pretty thorough. If you guys are interested, I know, obviously there've been a lot of issues with this particular site in the past, and that's why we're here, is to fix those issues. I know, our crew has been out there even just this past week or two, utilizing actually the hydro seeder that we had passed before, Commissioner Sullivan. I don't know if you remember that. We've been putting that to use already, and laying down some better erosion control in the ditches. So I don't know if we're interested, we can show some pictures of that work being done. I think Josh has, I think it's like 6 slides on a PowerPoint. If you would like to see, yeah, I'll give Josh a minute here to get it up and going then. So we mean what we say though. We're gonna do this right.
Having managed gravel pits for counties in my past life, you want to do it right, because the day can come when the county starts setting an example of the county. When I've been there when the private guys are complaining and they say, yeah, well, you don't deserve any special treatment, and in fact it can get worse. We had to earn their respect back again. So yeah, you don't want to get everybody upset.
Nope.
No.
So I'll turn it over to Josh here.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I just thought I'd add, we got up to speed pretty quick on kind of the history of this pit and the problems that came up in 2013. I've got a stack of papers, probably 3 inches tall. The report to the MPCA, the filthy water leaving the site, and pretty quickly realized that needs to get fixed immediately. And really, pretty much as soon as we got away from winter mode this spring, which wasn't very long ago, we've been working on that. And so I just wanted to show off a couple pictures quick. In the application, there was pictures of a lot of the problems that I saw that needed fixing real soon. And so I just wanted to show you that even since then, just a few weeks ago, we've been addressing a lot of those just as fast as we can. Because, I mean, in the long and the short of it, whether or not this permit goes through, of course, we hope it does. These problems need to get fixed regardless, so we weren't going to wait for this entire process. We've gotten to work right away on cleaning up the stormwater problems. And it says the host has disabled participant screen sharing. So it looks like I perhaps won't be able to share the PowerPoint, but to describe the pictures, all of those ditches that were shown as being relatively bare have all been blanketed and hydro-seeded today. Some of the grass was coming in from last fall, but we wanted to make sure we get that growing as fast as possible. We've also added rock checks to the discharge, to the ditches coming down the slopes to slow down that water and make sure that we're not having any more gullies coming in there. All the gullies have been repaired before we hydro-seeded and blanketed. And also today we've started working on, actually yesterday, really covering that entire open sloped area with hydro mulch. So that really in the long run, we don't want any bare soil if at all possible. I put in our application that our goal will be to hydro mulch bare soil anytime it's going to remain bare for longer than 14 days. It seems the historical practice has been to just leave that all bare all the time. And that's where our sediment problem is going to come from, is all that bare soil. So we're already getting that covered up. In fact, the entire open cut slope is covered already. And what the hydro mulch does is really keeps that sediment in place. Of course, if we got 4 inches of rain in an hour tomorrow, we'd still have problems just like anybody else. But for your standard rainfalls, that's going to really help to make sure that sediment isn't coming down the bank, isn't going into the sedimentation pond in the first place, and thus any water that leaves the site should be clean. Let's see, we've also cleaned up there was a picture of kind of a discharge point where you could see some dirty water leaving into the woods. We immediately installed the hay bale checks so that we act as a filter to clean the sediment out of the water before it leaves the site there. And just in the last few days, we've also excavated a small splash pool underneath that flared end from the pipe and added rec wrap from that pipe all the way to the bales. So we're really just slowing that water down as much as we possibly can, so it's not picking up any more sediment. Left to do, we're still working on getting really all the bare soil covered with hydro mulch. Any place where we're looking for vegetation where we're not going to be excavating anytime soon, we're also seeding that. Probably next week we'll get into that upper pit and start looking at revegetating that as well. It's got a fair amount of grass up there already, but we want to make sure to get all that bare soil covered up. So I hope this kind of shows as a good faith effort. We really, like Robbie said, we mean what we say. We're not just putting a bunch of stuff on a piece of paper that we're not going to do. We're already doing it. We're really trying to make sure that this is a clean site.
Very good, thank you. Okay, at this point, this is a public hearing. I'll open the hearing up to the public. Anyone from the public that wishes to comment on the Cook County Highway Department's request for a conditional use permit for the gravel pit of Maple Hill, now would be the opportunity to speak. Anyone to comment on the Cook County Highway Department application for conditional use permit? Hearing none, we're going to close the public portion of the hearing. I'll turn to commissioners if anyone has any comments or questions of county staff.
Has a wetland delineation been done on this site?
A full wetland delineation has only been done on the parcel to the east where the entrance road was installed. When we looked on the national survey, the only wetlands that show up are on the very south portion of the parcel, south into the woods from our sedimentation basin. Other than that, it didn't show any wetlands on the rest of the parcel, but a full delineation has not been done.
I would suggest, since we're going to have a condition of a setback, that we should have a full delineation done so that that's a legitimate setback, or else remove the setback, depending on what everyone else thinks. But I would suggest a full delineation.
You're thinking about, you're looking at item 9, a minimum 20-foot setback shall be maintained between upland and wetland interfaces. That's the reference, Charlie, huh?
Yep.
Other thoughts, concerns? I would guess, I'm thinking off the top of my head now, if there's not much wetlands involved, there probably isn't much of a wetland delineation to do. Should be a simple delineation. Is that a safe statement to make? Mr. Lane.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding the 2013 process, the Highway Department built an access off of Maple Hill Road directly into the pit. And that was under the authority of David Demmer, who was our wetland authority then. And his focus as the wetland representative was on that connector parcel as opposed to the gravel pit itself. I don't know if that means he de-emphasized the gravel pit or anything like that, but there was a focus on delineation to the eastern tract of the pit.
Others? Judy, you're muted.
I'm wondering if this is gravel that is available to the county workers only, or does the county sell to other contractors, or how does that work?
This is just for the highway department to use, and primarily at this point, it's not even used for gravel extraction. It's more for binder extraction to be used at other gravel pits that have too much rock and not enough fines to make good gravel. There is the potential in the future that we could look at crushing there, but right now I wouldn't say there's even enough room of open land, or it'd be really tight. And it's looking back in the records, there's been different opinions on whether or not there is suitable material there for crushing. But there is suitable material for making crushing possible at both our other pit at the airport as well as federal pits.
Okay, thank you.
Well, anyone have any other thoughts? If you don't have any questions, any motions, Charlie had a suggestion on the table.
Yeah, I would suggest we either strike number 9 or we require delineation so that there's no discussion about it later. All those resources are either identified or we strike number 9.
Yeah, hard to stay away from something that you don't know where it is. I guess that's, I've seen it before. Yeah, well, you track across it a few times and you say, I didn't know that was a wetland. Gosh, doesn't look very good anymore. I'm not hearing much from Josh or Rob here about that. Are you amenable to having that as a condition?
I think, I mean, it's an added expense, but if that's something that's been required of other pit permits, then I feel like it'd be fair for us to be subject to those same rules. I'm not sure if, I guess to add, if land services if this is something that they require of other pits or not. But of course, we just want to do what other pits are.
What would you say to that, Bill? Is that a standard ask?
That is, if there is evidence of hydrology on the site and it's subjected to a gravel pit operation, we have been requiring a delineation. So that would be in line with other private pit permitting processes.
So if we were to do that, we could simply modify that 9th condition to state that the wetland shall be delineated and a 20-foot minimum, da, 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 da. Does that sound reasonable, Charlie?
That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. What you're saying makes sense to me. If we're going to say you can't go there, you got to know where you can't go. And if there aren't any, you don't have to delineate any. So, okay. Was that a motion you were making, Charlie?
I would motion with the amended number 9 and all the existing conditions as written. I would motion for approval.
All right, we have a motion by Charlie to approve this there are 21 conditions and we have amended number 9. And Josh and Robert, you both have read all those conditions and understand them, I take it?
It's a lot of conditions, but I will second the motion.
All right, Jerry seconded the motion. Further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call the vote. Adam Priefel.
Aye.
Jerry.
Aye.
And Judy.
Aye.
And I'm I myself, Charlie.
Aye.
And John.
Aye.
Very good. It is passed and will be sent on to the county board, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate
All
it.
right. All right, we have one more planning commission item. It is Matthew Schmidt and Aaron Altimus request for a conditional use permit to establish a kennel operation on property adjacent to County Road 14. Legal description is the west 1/2 of the east 1/2 of the southwest 1/4 of the southwest 1/4, section 23, township 62 north, range 2 east. PID is 54-223-3300. Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is case 2021-8 CUP. The applicants purchased their property in April of 2021. The parcel includes 9.92 acres with 328 feet of frontage on County Road 14. Property is entirely contained within the FAR 3 zone district. Kennels are identified as a conditional use in FAR 3 zoning. Background and review of kennel is defined as any premises where 4 or more dogs over 6 months of age are kept or raised. That's in section 2.35 of the Cook County zoning ordinance. Conditional use is an activity or use that would not be appropriate if allowed outright in any number, but which if controlled as to number, location, and activity, be consistent with the comprehensive plan and not be injurious to public health, safety, or general welfare. The review of each proposed use must determine that it will or will not be compatible with the standard of this article, and if it is found to be, must attach conditions to ensure this continued compatibility. I've included more excerpts from Article 10 of the Cook County zoning ordinance and also the Cook County kennel ordinance, which is obviously relevant to this request. And number 1 of the kennel ordinance states all kennel operations that require a conditional use permit shall submit a facility operations plan along with the conditional use permit application. Facility operations plan shall contain the following information. A, the name of kennel operators, address, phone numbers, signature, and date. B, type of kennel operation, that is breeding, rescue, sled dog. C, number of dogs over 6 months of age. D, number of dogs over 6 months of age to be temporarily housed on the property, and a site plan including property location, acreage, and location of nearest neighbors within 600 feet. 2, location of kennel, including any alternate or temporary sites. 3, setback distances from kennel areas to property lines, neighboring homes, wells, and any protected public waters. 4, any existing or proposed vegetative buffer strips. 5, waste management area, including a composting site, spreading area, or storage bins. 6, location of wells and septic systems. 7, location of dwellings on the property. Waste management plan, noise management mitigation plan, description of supporting infrastructure such as nearest trail system. And then moving on, all kennel operations, including waste management areas, shall be set back a minimum of 100 feet from all wells in accordance with the state well code, Minnesota rules, chapter 4725, herein adopted by reference. Number 3, all kennel operation areas shall be set back a minimum of 100 feet from all adjacent property lines, except that kennels may be set back closer to any property lines that abut state or federal properties. 4, a vegetative buffer strip shall be maintained at least 100 feet between any kennel operational area, including waste management areas, and any protected waters or officially designated drainage ways that lead to protected waters. The width of the buffer strip may be increased considering the slope of the property, proximity to protected waters, and lake classification. Please reference the Soil and Water Conservation District guidance for those details. 5, the county board at its discretion may impose additional setbacks on new kennel operation areas on a case-by-case basis upon the review of each conditional use permit request. In creating the site plan, the greatest distance from neighboring residences shall be considered by the applicant, encouraging a minimum setback distance of 600 feet from the closest residence. And finally, the noise standard shall be enforced in conformance with Minnesota Pollution Control Agency rules, chapter 7030, herein adopted by reference. I included the excerpts from the Cook County Land Use Guide Plan, which invariably has references to dog kennel operations, tourism, and the independence of private business operations and that sort of thing. For the considerations, the applicants purchased their property in April of 2021. The parcel includes 9.9 acres and was created through an administrative subdivision process in 2020. That reference is 2020-AS4. The parcel is accessed from County Road 14 with the livable and proposed kennel areas at the northern limits of the property. Parcel is moderately sloped with a northwest to southeast geologic aspect. Property build-out occurred in 1996 and included construction of a residence and garage. The proposed kennel area is immediately adjacent to an existing trail network on federal property. Property in the area includes a mix of private, state, and federal ownership that is shown in Figure 1 of your packet. As described in their application, most mushing activities should occur away from the County Road 14 travel corridor. The applicants propose a 45 dog kennel with an anticipated duration of 10 to 20 years. They have over a decade of mushing experience, including a mix of racing and tourist sledding. Their current kennel is situated on a remote off-grid location adjacent to Mush Lake within the FAR 1 zone district. And just for your reference, kennels are a permitted use in the FAR 1 zone. They will reside on their County Road 14 property, suggesting theirs will be a supervised kennel operation. The submitted facilities operation plan includes reference to all criteria mentioned in the Cook County zoning ordinance. Given their 10-acre property, prescribed setback distances to adjacent residences are exceeded with a nearest residence identified as over 1,100 feet. The ordinance-based setback minimum is 600 feet. That's depicted in Figure 2 of your packet. The closest protected public water is approximately 2,100 feet to the northeast, and that is a tributary to the Cadence River. That is also depicted in Figure 1. Mushing is connected to both recent and past histories of Cook County and has been viewed by the county itself as part of the active Cook County lifestyle. As a broad geographic reference, Cook County Land Use Guide Plan cites the East End to include trail-based and dispersed, that is, hunting, recreational activity is actively supported, especially dog mushing, horseback riding, ATVing, and hiking. County Road 14 itself receives special LUGP mention as a defined sub-area of distinctive characteristics, including Cadence Creek, Flute Reed River, and the Brule River. This area is low-density development dotted with home businesses, is particularly noted for its concentration of dog kennels and dog sledding enthusiasts and associated businesses. As presented, the Altima Schmidt parcel is well within that LUGP described recreational landscape. As a conditional use permit, it is the responsibility of the regulatory process to identify both advantages and disadvantages of a proposed use while adhering to section 10.05B, which includes the following CUP criteria. A conditional use permit may be granted upon finding all of the following. 1, the use conforms to the land use or comprehensive plan of the county. 2, the use is compatible with the existing neighborhood. 3, the use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement in the surrounding area of uses permitted by right in the zone district. And 4, the location and character of the proposed use is consistent with a desirable pattern of development for the area. As an identified conditional use in the FAR 3 zone district, and as further defined by the kennel ordinance itself, denial of a kennel request must be based upon factors that overcome its allowance as an identified property use. In this case, that presents an extreme regulatory slope to climb. History has shown that with the kennel CUP process, the consistent objection from adjacent property owners has focused on a disruption of the aesthetic enjoyment of property. That said, over the past 4 years, Land Services has received no complaints regarding kennel operations along the County Road 14 corridor, despite the presence of up to 4 kennels during that time. This request meets all the requirements of the zoning ordinance and the land use guide plan. Its approval should include the following conditions. 1, all land use parameters established by the Cook County Kennel Ordinance, including setback distances, buffers, well protection, noise, and environmental considerations, will be incorporated into kennel operations. 2, this permit shall expire upon the sale or transfer of the property. Sent out 12 letters of notification and received comments supporting the Altima Schmidt request from Tim White, Bob and Jill Summers, Andrea and David DeBoer, and Odin Jorgensen. Letters opposing the request were received from Jason and Nolan Gesh, Angela Swedman, and Lacey Kimball.
Thank you, Bill. Is Matt Schmidt or Aaron Altimus or one of the owners online here with us?
We're here.
Oh, there you are. Very good. Would you like to, do you want to add anything to Bill's narrative before we open this up for public comment?
Yes, please. I want to thank the commission for considering this permit. You know, as the application states, we've been doing sled dog activities for over 10 years, mostly racing, but also doing tours at Bearskin Lodge for the last few years. I guess we feel that emotions are really driving the opposition to this permit and not hard facts. The ordinance was created to take emotions out of the process. You know, it defines an area in the county that specifically states where the activity of dog mushing should be located. You know, given the history of dog mushing in the county and the county's own visitors bureau promoting races and tours, you know, it seems like the county is benefiting from dog mushing overall. You know, we don't support every kennel permit that has come to the county. There's definitely areas that we think kennels should not be. You know, we moved to County 14 because this area was specifically stated as an area that is acceptable to have sled dogs. There's been a lot of talk in the opposition about kind of the lower number of the kennels in the area and how the neighborhood is changing. You know, sled dog kennels kind of ebb and flow like any other activity for a lot of reasons. And since we feel the land use guide is clear that the land around here is suitable for this purpose, we feel that this use follows the land over time, regardless of who comes and goes, unless the ordinance is changed. So if we take the emotions out of it and stick with the facts, feel that the facts are that two landowners in the neighborhood out of 13 or so, if you look at from County 60 to Trout Lake Road, only 2 out of 13 or so oppose this permit. The rest are in support or neutral. You know, the facts that are other facts is our permit meets all the setback requirements stated in the ordinance. And regarding waste and sound, which was an issue brought up in the last county commissioner meeting, we feel that the studies that were done by the county not too long ago, all those passed with flying colors regarding noise levels and waste levels. And as Mr. Lane said, the county has this information. As far as Minnesota noise control, pollution control chapter 7030, that was also studied by the county, and nothing was in violation. And just personally, we purchased a decibel meter to kind of understand what decibels are and how much noise is generated, to have a kind of a scientific, a hard number that we can look at and see where we are. And if we needed to do anything to adjust or change that, we could do, you know, put some measures in place to help mitigate the sound. But what we found with this decibel meter was that, we can get our kennel kind of riled up. Like if we let a dog off to free run, everyone else kind of gets excited, right? And so using that recording, I recorded 89 decibels in the middle of the yard, pretty loud. For reference, my lawnmower is 90 decibels. So about the same as a lawnmower. And as soon as if you move 100 feet away, that sound never gets to 65 decibels, which is stated in the 7030 ordinance. At most of the time, it's completely silent, probably 95% of the time. If we look just anecdotally and disregard the science, the application is right that there have not been noise complaints in this area, and that's especially significant since the immediate neighbors moved in when there's a kennel present here of 50 dogs. So this land has been approved. It's been stated that this is an appropriate use for this land right here. Another thing to take into consideration is that in 2009, a Lake County kennel application was denied for Kathy Lawrence. That was overturned in court, and much of the same things that were brought up there surrounding noise are being brought up again. Basically, the court said that the fear of noise was an arbitrary thought, that there's no scientific backing behind it. And in turn, they overturned the county's decision and granted the permit. So we ask that this could be taken in consideration when you're making this decision. And lastly, the piece regarding dog waste, which Mr. Lane had talked about a little bit earlier. That study was done by Cook County, and it was determined that the waste from dogs does not have a significant effect on groundwater or the environment as a whole. Waste is properly composted over 1 to 2 years. In 2 years, it's gone. Dog waste is similar to wolf scat because of the high meat, high protein diet that we feed our dogs. And lastly, the USDA defines the carrying capacity of a piece of land in regards to how many animals can safely occupy that land without causing a detriment to the environment from waste. This is how St. Louis County considers the maximum number of dogs for a kennel permit. And right now that limit that USDA sets is 8.6 dogs per acre. Obviously, we, in any kennel application at this time, are well below that. Do you have anything else? Those are our main comments. Thank you for your time, and we are available for any questions anytime.
Very good, thank you. At this point, then, we're going to open this hearing up to the public for comments from the public. If you wish to comment on the application for a kennel by Matthew Schmidt and Aaron Altemus on County Road 14, we're going to ask you if you wish to speak to give us your name and your address for the record. And I don't know if we're going to have a lot of folks here or not. I see there's a few folks online. We don't need to repeat things over and over and over again. If you don't agree or you think it's too nice, you go ahead and say you agree with that and move on, so we don't spend the whole evening on it. So with that, I'll open it to the public. Anyone that wishes to speak to it.
I see that Angie has her hand up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Angie.
Okay. It wasn't working at first, so. My name is Angela Swedman. Do you need my address? It's 821 Tube Road 14. I guess my first question is, has someone from Land Services visited the proposed kennel site and measured the setbacks to the adjoining properties?
Ma'am, this is your opportunity to give us your testimony. it's not an opportunity for you to ask questions I mean, you can ask questions, but it's not necessarily going to get answered. This is for you to tell us why
No one has to
you
answer
think
it.
this
That's
should or
fine.
shouldn't be. Yeah, that's all. I just, it won't be a big question and answer session. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll use my time to ask this question though.
Yes.
The setbacks to adjoining properties and site features such as wells for all locations of the kennel's activity, including the dog yard itself, the puppy pen, the proposed dog waste compost areas, the dog yard drainage ditch, and the vegetative buffer strip. When I first moved here years ago, I heard about the contentious relationship between mushers and snowmobilers. I didn't really give it much thought because I am neither a musher nor a snowmobiler. But we live in a county where news travels fast, especially word of mouth. So imagine my recent surprise when I heard of the dismissive comments stating that residents who spoke in opposition to the proposed permits were just dog haters, or we were just people who were nosy and wanted to stop property owners who had the right to use their land as they saw fit, or we're snowmobilers. So what more would you expect? Best yet, the people who brought their concerns to the board are just anti-dog sledders. I am none of those things. I am just a concerned citizen hoping to bring my concerns about noise and dog waste to the attention of the Planning Commission. I appreciate your careful consideration. The county's policies governing kennels are vague, especially when it comes to kennels on smaller sized lots in residential areas. The county has recognized this already in the land services narratives and statements at the county board meeting. There are several points made in the paperwork that are inaccurate, incomplete, or incorrect. I would like to point out that the absence of complaints does not mean that all of the neighbors within barking distance were pleased or even indifferent to the noise. Who were they supposed to complain to? Is this the sort of thing that the county wants us to bring to the attention of the sheriff's office? It's not an emergency. I feel it is more likely that the residents of the neighborhood gritted their teeth and tolerated it until the ones who could moved away. The reason you are hearing complaints about the noise now is that because the county has twice now in so many months sent us a letter asking for our opinions about it. It is because Mr. White's kennel has been unused for well over a year now, and the only other two kennels are far enough away that they are unable to be heard when you are inside of your home. The Summers kennel has not been used the entire time that my sister's family, the Kimballs, have lived here. The setbacks from the original 40-acre property are not still in existence because the 10 acres between the Ultimus Schmidt house and the Kimball house are no longer part of the Ultimus Schmidt property. That 40-acre original property may have been built around a dog kennel, but it is not, it's not a 40-acre lot anymore or a 40-acre property anymore. Are the setbacks as stated in the plan taking into consideration that the lot between the houses is now owned by the Kimballs? There is a drop in elevation of over 100 feet between the proposed dog yard location and the location of Lacey and Cam's garage. There's a drainage area that my niece and nephew play in. We call it the Crick. That's our family name for it. It is by a little fort that they built in the woods. I'm concerned that the contents of the drainage ditch will end up in their creek. Speaking of the drainage ditch, the plan says that it will drain into the maple forest. It was not included on the site plan map. Which maple forest is that? The described permit says that the compost areas will be located northeast of the dog yard. The site map shows the location of as northwest of the dog yard. Where will the compost location be located? The wording of the county's conditional use permit section of the county zoning ordinance says plainly that conditional use permits are special uses not generally appropriate within the zone, that they are necessary for regulating use. If left unrestricted, that would cause harm to the area. It is the conditional use permit that allows the board to limit certain activities like kennels from becoming great enough in concentration or number that they would negatively affect the neighbors. I would point out that the residents in this area have expressed these concerns, that kennels on small lots have a greater effect on neighboring properties than the effect that kennels have in other zones where the minimum lot size is 20 acres. I have great doubts about the level of noise control that the applicants have over their dogs. Have the applicants' dogs always been under the care of a full-time caretaker? I don't know. That's not something that has been included. my understanding, and again, this is the whole, noise travels fast, was that they were kenneled 30 miles away from their residence. So I don't know that gives an accurate description of when, of how loud the kennel actually gets. If this permit
Pam,
is recommended,
are you getting nearing completion? We
Yep,
have
I've got
a
two
number
more
of people
lines.
who want to speak. We don't want to cut you off, but please finish your points.
if this permit is recommended, what would the maximum number of dogs be? When those dogs are causing enough noise to affect the neighbors, what is the neighbor's recourse? That's all I have. Thank you for
Very
listening.
good. All right, thank you. Anyone else that would wish to speak to this request for a kennel permit? Anyone else?
Looks like Betsy has her hand up.
Hi,
Betsy,
yes,
go ahead.
thanks. Yep, my name is Betsy Jorgensen and I live on Frank's Way, which is just down the road from Matt and Aaron. And my husband Odin and I just wanted to speak on their behalf. We also wanted to thank the committee for using objective decisions and to also uphold the ordinances that are in place. We've known Matt and Aaron for a long time, and they're good neighbors and they're good mushers. They have always taken very good care of their kennel. And they're community-minded people that don't look to have adversarial relationships with the people they live around. So, if you have a dog kennel and you care about your neighbors, you are not going to be engaging in a lifestyle that would be really disruptive or harmful to your neighbors. And so I can attest to the fact that that's not what they're looking to do here with this kennel, and nor are we with our kennel. When people talk about a sled dog kennel, imagination plays a huge role in it because they're not very common. And so people are quick to imagine what a certain number of dogs would be like in terms of noise or waste or impact. And just, like when you consider their proximity to yourself, it raises those questions and it gives a lot of scope to the imagination. But that imagination has to be countered with actual data and studies, which have been done by Cook County and by other entities. And so I just encourage everyone to make sure that they're using facts and data and not imagination. Alaskan Huskies are a different breed. They're not terriers and they're not labs. Their waste is different. Their diet is different. Their noise is different. I have 2 terriers and they're obnoxious. We also have 50 Huskies and they're not obnoxious. They bark when we feed them. And when every dog is fed their portion, they're quiet because they're busy eating. I spend a lot of time at home in the summer in particular, and I don't enjoy noise. I don't enjoy nuisances. It's a stated fact that sled dog kennels of this size and greater do not reach those levels which are described as nuisances by the law, and that can be verified. I've heard engine motors, and I've heard chainsaws, and I've heard music from people that are more annoying than a kennel of Huskies. So I thank you for your time and your efforts and for listening. And I hope to see this application accepted here today. Thanks.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else that wishes to speak? Now is your opportunity. And don't raise your hand, just speak. I'm not seeing the hands.
All right.
Anyone else?
I would like to go.
Yes, sir.
My name is Jason Gesh. For the record, I live at 852 County Road 14. My wife Mullen and I are opposed to this kennel request out of support for our neighbors Cam, Lacey, and Angie, and their legal right to be protected from unnecessary noise as defined by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency that everybody keeps bringing up, which is, again, an enforceable part of the Cook County Kennel Ordinance. So with that said, I would like to talk about sound. First, the legal measurement of sound pollution from this proposed kennel is at the Kimball's property line. I keep hearing talk about houses and that, but it's actually not at the house. Legally, it would be at her property line, which I don't know if any of you got out to see the property or looked it up on Parcel Finder, but it kind of shows you what's going on there. If you look at the Parcel Finder of this lot, the yard pretty much goes up to the boundaries. Because of how Bob Summers actually divided that up, when he divided his 40 acres up, their yard actually extends pretty close, not all the way, but pretty close to the property line with the Kimbells. The only tree cover, sparse maples, a lot of it's open yard actually. Anybody knows maples, we have a lot of them up there. They lose their leaves from October to late May, so not a lot of sound protection. And I don't know if, you know, we're talking about emotions and imagination here, but I don't know how many of you are aware of that, but back in 1991, Lloyd Gilbertson did a study for a dog yard down in the West End. He was actually brought in to prove that the dogs, and I kind of agree with the Ultimus and Schmidt and Betsy in that. I mean, in the distance, people complain about the noise, but they don't really have any grounds. I mean, it might just be that they don't like the sound or whatever. But he was brought in to prove to those people that there was no legal basis for their objecting to the kennel, which in this case we're talking like about a half mile to a mile away. In this case, we're talking 100 feet, maybe 140. I guess kind of looked at their plan. But anyway, what he found over the course of 3 days. Now, keep in mind, this is a state licensed acoustical engineer that was brought in to protect the kennel. What he found with 40 to 50 dogs is they recorded between 81 and 85 decibels when howling at 50 feet. This is all data that is on the county, or as Bill said, the dark files, but I do have a copy of it. But yeah, you know, there's 81 to 85 decibels at 50 feet. And basically conventional wisdom is every time that sound doubles. So say you go out to 100 feet from 50, basically how that works, and this is all science. I mean, it's all science.
Well, sir, the science will get measured when the noise happens. You know, you're explaining science to us, and that really doesn't move us ahead here.
Yep. Well, if I can finish,
they have to. These people will have to, as this permit, if it is passed, has to abide by the law.
I'm fully aware of that.
They won't have a kennel there if they can't abide. So you don't need to educate us on the law. Educate us on why this doesn't meet the requirements of the ordinance.
Okay, well, I think it's kind of self-serving. 81 to 85 decibels is higher than 55. That's the state nighttime noise standard, 55 decibels. So anyway, yeah, at every doubling, it drops 6 decibels. So at the 100-foot mark, what that would mean with little or no tree cover is that would be 75 to 79 decibels of noise. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out that'll crush the MPCA noise standard day or night, more so at night if a deer or a fox comes through. I mean, I hope they do a good job. I do, but you know, the reality is things don't always go perfect. There are complications that come up. I mean, we have deer, foxes, bears. Basically, I really feel this county needs to get ahead of the smallet kennel trend. I mean, dog mushers didn't used to do this.
Sir, you should go and talk. Excuse me, sir. This is a conversation you might want to take to the county board, but this commission is mandated to go by the existing ordinances and the comprehensive plan.
Okay,
that's
and
what we do.
You're
talking about
rule.
What you'd like to see politicians do. We're not politicians.
Okay, fair enough. But 70-30 is part of that. So I'll turn over my time. I'd just like to point out one more thing that since it's been talked about, you can't see it, but that's a survey the county did in 2008, and it makes no mention of Bob Summers having a conditional use permit on that property or dogs. But it does point out the Beals and all the other dog mushers that we know actually did have dogs out there. So thank you for your time. I appreciate what you do. Don't take that the wrong way, Mr. Fair.
No, I realize, but emotions don't move us down the road. Facts
that's not
do.
Emotion, that's science.
Well, the science will come into effect if there's too much noise.
Yeah, I agree.
Bring it up. It's not hard to measure. Very good. Thank you, sir. Anyone else that wishes to address this permit request for a kennel by Matthew Schmidt and Aaron Ultimus? Now is your opportunity to speak.
I would like to speak.
Yes, who's speaking?
Lacey Kimball.
Lacey Kimball. And what's your address, Lacey?
821 County Road 14.
Very good. Thank you.
First off, I have questions that I understand will not be answered, but if this thing is for approving kennel permit based off of all the regulations, the drawing lists the waste area off to the west, and yet in the descriptions, it says the waste area will be in the wooded area to the north and east of the dog yard. The property that is wooded to the east of the dog yard is my property. The property to the north of the dog yard is federal property. It is Superior National Forest. Neither of those properties are acceptable for the waste yard. So there are discrepancies in the application itself. The application says that trees will be planted to cause a vegetation buffer to give shade for the dogs and block noise. Well, once again, the little picture here shows the vegetation buffer and the trees to the west of the dog yard. The yard at the 777 property goes almost to the property line. There is virtually no vegetative buffer between the proposed dog yard and my property. Keeps being brought up about the dense maple forest. One other thing to mention about dense maples, they are not evergreens. They are tall, deciduous with leafage only up top.
Stop.
It creates a tunnel effect. So when there's a lot of noise, it bounces off the bottom of the leaves and does indeed carry in the summer. If you stand at my corner monument to the northwest of my property, you can hear vehicles driving by on the road. The furthest distance from my property to County Road 14, you can hear traffic on the road. The drainage ditch that has been mentioned in the application, that drainage ditch is draining onto my property. That's pretty much the gist of it. The application itself keeps contradicting itself between northeast and northwest, and between the previous permit for 60 dogs, but no, the permit was for 50 dogs, but he had 60 dogs on site, which is kind of already a violation of a permit. That permit was for the original 40 acres. It was not for the subdivided 10-acre parcel. So that permit should not even keep being brought up as reference to why a permit's allowed here. And there have not been dogs over there for a decade and a half. So and when I moved in, there was a lot of dog noise to the east. There was lots and lots and lots of dog noise to the east. And even though no one has complained in 4 years, that's a factor of two things. Number one, most of those kennels are now gone. And number two, residents that were living here then chose to move out. They couldn't stand it. They sold their land and got out of here.
Thank you. Anyone else wishes to speak to this permit application for a kennel? County Road 14, now is your opportunity. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing portion of this, and we'll turn to commissioners for any questions or comments. And I'll begin just because I was there Monday. Second time this month I've been up there because I was there for the other permit across the road. So I viewed that site again on Monday as well. Or Monday or Tuesday, whatever. Today is Wednesday. Oh, yeah, Monday. Anyway, I did visit this site as well. Yeah, and I see it pretty much as they're depicting it here. I don't quite understand all the references to the sidelines. Perhaps we'll get some of that straightened out. Is it going to waste area east or west? But it was certainly obvious where the dog yard area, where the house is, etc. Matt, is Matt still there? I lost him on my screen here. But I did go to your home and there was no one home. But the door was open, but the screen door was partially latched and there was 2 young dogs in there and neither one of them barked at me. I was kind of surprised. They're huskies or what they are, but I'm knocking on the door and they both came to the door and sat and stared at me and they let me go get back in my car and drive away without a peep. I found that unusual. Now, I don't know if that's characteristic of all the dogs or not. But.
They're 2 retired sled dogs, and
Oh, they're old dogs. I thought they were young dogs. Okay, that's how what I know about dogs. They were very. I was surprised. Anyway, okay, commissioners. Anyone else have some comments, questions?
I have a couple of comments to add, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Okay, first of all, I don't live within the zone where letters are sent, but I live in the area of the County 14. I'm within that area. And I have to say that the acoustical claims of some of the objectors here are a little phenomenal. First of all, I'm an audiophile. I do have equipment such as sound pressure meters and stuff like that. So I do understand the sound issue. And in fact, I'm about equidistant from Highway 61 and from the dog kennel section within that County Road 14 loop. And within there, the only sound issue that has ever irritated me was the sound from the rumble strips on Highway 61. I measured them and found them to exceed the state standards. And I could hear them clearly up here on my property. I can hear the dogs sometimes in the summer, and I kind of find it personally soothing because it's kind of a natural thing. I know what's going on out there. I like the area, but the noise has never really reached the levels that are claimed by the objectors here. The second thing is that living within this area, I accept that dog kennels are appropriate. None of them are quite on my side of this area. But I certainly wouldn't have any reason to object to them. I like dogs.
Thank you, Jerry. Anyone else, commissioners? Questions, thoughts?
I have a question. Oh,
Go ahead, Judy, go ahead. We'll get back to you, Adam, then.
I have a question on the adjacent Kimball property that's vacant. Can they meet the setbacks that the county requires to put in a residence from the road frontage and the side yards and still have 600 feet between the dog kennel and their home? Because it's vacant doesn't mean they can take advantage of that 600 feet, because that truly does devalue the property. So can they put a house on that vacant lot either side and still meet the setbacks for the 600 feet?
I think correct me if I'm wrong, folks, I believe your 10-acre parcel is about like 330 by 1320? You going back a full 40 in depth? Mr. Schmidt, does that sound right?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's correct.
And your dog yard is on the very back corner of that because that's federal property and you can go up adjacent to it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So Judy, they're on the very back side of these deep lots, if that answers your question.
So it may be possible to situate a home on that lot and still accommodate the dog yard at least 600 feet away.
Sure. You would think so. I didn't
Yeah.
look at it for those purposes, but you would think so.
Right.
Adam, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I visited their property this past Thursday and saw their layout and everything. And I've been to their past kennel too. And as a dog musher myself, I know them just from the dog mushing scene, and they're really respected people and do things the right way too. And but getting on the other two issues that everyone keeps bringing up, the waste and the noise, is us mushers scoop, clean up our dog rings every single day and compost them. It's not like a pen of cattle or horses or whatnot. And then on the noise thing too, like my neighborhood, we have 2 kennels in my neighborhood. And if you hear a dog barking 9 out of 10 times, it's not from one of our kennels. And if ours are barking, just like any other musher in the middle of the night, they're trained to be quiet. And I'm sure they're just like that with their dogs. And that's all I have to.
Very good, thank you. Other commissioners, questions, comments?
I have a couple more, but I'll wait.
I think these.
Okay, John?
These are, everybody, this is a very good discussion. I think these are some very good people and do a good job. They would do a good job. I'm real concerned about the number of dogs out there. Judy makes a great point about that vacant lot and the value. I think that the value of that lot would drop dramatically. I mean, if you were going to go out and want to build a nice home and you looked at that lot and there was a dog kennel next door, whether they're barking while you're visiting that property or not, would you be less inclined to buy it? And I think it would be. It would lower the valuation of that property, and that's a bit of a concern of mine. Of course, the noise is too many dogs. Are we going to consider fewer dogs on it, or is this all or none? I guess would be my question. And I'm just a little bit skeptical because these lots out here, they started out, I think that they talked about there being a 40-acre tract out there, and now it's cut up into smaller tracts. And that becomes a problem for me as we subdivide further and further and further down. And that's what's happened here. And I think maybe we should be re-examining our ideas about what's a suitable area for a dog kennel. That's my point.
I just want to, I guess, emphasize what staff said about this parcel, in that they meet all of the requirements of the code. And that if you say no, what's the basis for it? Because we think it might affect the property value, or because we think that all of those things are, I understand all of those thoughts and ideas. I was a real estate appraiser in a past life as well. And a dog musher might also want to buy that property next door and pay a little more for it. That there's that side of the world as well. But my point just is, if they're meeting all of the requirements and all of the setbacks, on what basis are we refusing them?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Just an additional comment on that. And I think you hit it, and maybe John missed the point a little bit. The neighborhood, according to the LUPG, Land Use Planning Guide, has been relatively designated as appropriate for dog kennel operations. So this is not a hidden fact. It's not unknown. And so if a property comes in there, the value of it is going to be based on the fact that they do allow the dog kennels. It doesn't go down because of that. It stays whatever it is. And if somebody wants to move in without a dog kennel and put up with them around there, perfectly appropriate. Whether that's a lower value or not, I don't know. Because I'm not sure what makes the value of that particular property. But if somebody wants to come in with a dog kennel, they should have the expectation that they will be reasonably well accepted within that. We have the standards, we have the guides, we have the regulations, we have the conditions. I don't see any reason that we should change from what we have decided on the LUPG. I was part of the group that formed the current LUPG, and I don't think we've changed any of those rules or regulations. So if people move into areas that are appropriate for dog kennels, they should expect dog kennels. That's all I've got to say.
I just have to add what you said there, Jerry. That ink is barely dry on that comp plan. It seems like maybe 2 years ago we completed that. Or maybe I'm shorting it by a year, maybe 3. No more than that.
I don't remember how long it's been.
Yeah,
I've been on this
it's pretty fresh. It's pretty, not to say that it can't be done again, but it's a pretty fresh document. We spent over a year.
It is very current. We reviewed the old one and made modifications and complete changes in a number of areas.
Yeah.
And
over,
yes, this is a
over
current
18
document.
months we spent on that document, as I recall, over about 18, 19 months. So it is not, it is what it is. That's kind of our guiding documents, is what I'm saying. And so,
Okay.
other thoughts, folks?
I have a
Motions?
question. Is
Yeah.
this their homesteaded property? Are they living there? And
Yes.
is the intent to use the Mush Lake kennel? Are you going to discontinue use of the Mush Lake kennel, or are you going to maintain both?
Is,
Can we respond or do you want?
Yes, please do.
We're planning to sell the Mush Lake property in the near future. And this is your sole and only homestead.
You live on this property now, do you not?
Correct.
Yes, this is their home, Judy. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I would like to make a motion to approve with the conditions as written.
All right, we have a motion by Charlie to adopt this as, with the conditions as written.
I would second that.
We have a second from Jerry, Commissioner Hennepin. Further discussion by the commissioners.
I'd like the discussion of whether it's a permanent conditional use permit or an interim conditional use permit. I know it's being asked as permanent conditional use permit.
It's been asked, and it's one of the conditions that it would not transfer with the property.
Right.
It's not an IUP, it's a CUP, but it sunsets upon the sale of the property.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Adam Treefel.
Aye.
Jerry Henniker.
Aye.
Judy Machenbacher.
aye.
Charlie Laborda.
Aye.
John Sloot.
Nay.
Chuck is absent. I will vote aye myself. So it does pass on the, what do we got? 5-1 vote. So that'll go to the county board for their approval next, folks. Thank you. And that is, am I correct? That's the end of our planning commission. So we would entertain a motion to adjourn planning commission
So moved, Mr. Chair.
by Mr. Henniker.
Second.
And a second by John. Adam?
Second by John.
Adam Treefel.
Aye.
Aye. Jerry.
Aye.
Judy.
Aye.
Am I myself, Charlie,
Aye.
and John.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Now, moving on. Can we just take about 1 minute here? I'm going to fill my glass of water up here. And,
Good. I like that.
Who's that there? Heidi? Oh, cool.
You need board members down? I might have time.
We may have openings. What are we doing? Who are we missing yet here? Bill's not back, and Judy. We're going to take a couple more minutes there.
Is Diana still on, or could one of you forward me? I can't find the Board of Adjustment agenda.
I'm here. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Thank you, Dan.
She's here. She just hides.
I like to hide. Let's see here. Let me know if you don't get it, Charlie.
Got it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're getting there. We just need to get Bill back yet, I think.
Hey, Don, this is Roger Barton. I just wanted to check my sound. Are you reading me?
Yep, you come in just fine, Roger. I can see you and hear you well.
Great.
Someone set this agenda, and let's see, they guessed 5 o'clock, and it is, what, 2 minutes to 5, so good thing we had two withdrawals in that first half. There's Bill. I think we got everybody back.
I didn't realize.
I think we're, okay, I think we're going to start our Board of Adjustment. You called, you guys just noted, Bill, that you will have here at 5 p.m. Wednesday. It's like 1 minute to 5, so we're right on schedule. So with that, I'm going to begin our Board of Adjustment for Wednesday, June 9th. First item on the agenda is to approve or adopt this agenda and approve the minutes of our last meeting, which was on May 12th. Someone has if we don't have any changes or exceptions to the minutes, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve as written.
Motion. That was Charlie made a motion.
Yep.
We have a second. Is that you, Jerry, second? I got that. I saw that. All right, I'll call the roll again. Adam Kriefel.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Judy. We lose Judy. Judy, you're there, but you're muted.
Aye.
Aye, yes, there you go. And Charlie?
Aye.
Yeah, that's it. All right, very good. Then moving on to our first item tonight is Roger Barton, a request for a variance from the road setback to construct a garage on property adjacent to Birch Drive and within the FAR 3 zone district. Legal description is Lot 13, Block 1, Superior Overlook Plat, PID 52-1650170. Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is case 2021-12V, and I see that Mr. Barton is present this evening. The Bartons purchased their property in 1997. The 4.75 acre tract was created in 1983 as part of the Superior Overlook Plat. Property is contained within the Forest Agriculture Residential or FAR 3 zone district. FAR 3 zoning includes 25-foot side and 50-foot rear lot line setbacks. Road setbacks are 85 feet from the center line or 35 feet from the edge of the right-of-way, whichever is greater. Background and review, a definition of relevance here this evening is setback, which is the minimum horizontal distance between where a structure may be placed and the normal high water mark, road center line, road right-of-way, front, side, or rear lot line, well, sewage, soil absorption area, and soil treatment area. That's from Article 2.56 of the Cook County zoning ordinance. You received your checklist for this determination and decision. And as with all of our relevant Planning Commission Board of Adjustment cases, I did include both zoning criteria and guidance from the Land Use Guide Plan of 2016, just for ratification. That committee was in place in 2015. The Land Use Guide Plan was approved in 2015 and adopted in 2016. So just closing up some loopholes there for you guys.
5 years, I can't believe it.
Seems like yesterday, doesn't it?
It does.
For your consideration, the applicants purchased their property in 1996 and in 1997 initiated build out afforded by Land Use Permit 97-55. In addition to the west side of the residence was added in 2000, LUP 2000-224. During permit discovery, then Planning and Zoning noted that the 1997 built residence was within the 25-foot FAR 3 side lot setback. No enforcement action was initiated by the county, and the non-compliant construction was later corrected through a quitclaim deed exchange with the Barton's neighbor to the south, and I included those surveys just to show you that adjustment. The property has a prominent bedrock knob in the southeast corner, which understandably is the site of residential construction. Outside of the knob, the parcel is flat and wetland resources are present, suggesting limited buildability options. Buildable areas are further constrained by septic storage and treatment components. Land Services estimates that approximately 85% of the Barton property is compromised by wetland resources. Formerly a private road, Birch Drive is now County Road 101, and within it, a management and maintenance program provided by the Cook County Highway Department. Zoning and plat configurations deliver a prescribed roadway setback of 85 feet from the center line or 35 feet from the edge of the right-of-way, which is ever greater. The platted Birch Drive right-of-way is 66 feet, meaning a 33-foot centerline setback would define a minimum construction threshold for the proposed construction of a 528 square foot garage. The applicants have proposed construction of a 22 by 24, 528 square foot garage with a proposed setback constraint of 50 feet from the Birch Drive center line. Garages have long been viewed as a necessary property resource in Cook County, and given practical difficulties presented by their property, placement of the garage in the proposed location is reasonable and largely without an alternative. If approved, the following conditions may be applied to this variance. 1, all permitting requirements of Cook County must be adhered to. Prior to the initiation of construction, a land use permit shall be necessary. 2, the property shall conform to Minnesota Rule 7080 in the Cook County Septic Ordinance as directed by the Cook County Environmental Health Inspector. And I included Mitch Everson's memo with your packet. 3, the garage shall not be used for human habitation. No pressurized water delivery shall be allowed without appropriate septic permitting. 4, no vegetation shall be removed from within the Birch Drive right-of-way. Excuse me. 5, the garage drip line perimeter shall not exceed 675 square feet, assuming a 22 by 24 vertical wall perimeter and 18-inch eaves or gable ends. 6, the structure shall not exceed 14 feet in elevation. 7, the structure shall be finished in earth tone colors and otherwise blend in with the landscape. 8, the garage shall be no closer than 50 feet from the center line of Birch Drive. We sent out 20 notices of this request. At the time of this narrative preparation, 1 comment from Andrea and Douglas Hirth was received by Land Services. And just as a follow-up note, the Hirths did withdraw their comment in opposition to this and have no objection to the request.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. Mr. Barton, do you want to add anything to Bill's narrative before we take public comments?
No, I really appreciate the work Bill did and his description of the situation. We're in alignment with that, with the conditions. Perhaps just let me elaborate a little bit. My wife Christine and I have been in that house for 23 years, although my connections in Cook County go back previously a generation or two on different properties. We lived there for at least continuously 10 years. All 3 of our children attended Cook County schools. But then 8 years ago with the economy, I needed to seek other work or further electronics work. My electronics work was drying up in the county. So we headed south. We're currently also living in St. Paul. I'm happy to announce I'm retired now. So we want to come home. But in coming home, we're saying, gosh, it's beautiful, but we're really going to need a garage if we're going to live there in retirement. And so I appreciate the effort of the committee and Bill Lane to look at the alternatives. As described, there's not a lot of buildable property in our 5 acres. The garage location is essentially sandwiched between a tall hunk of bedrock where the house sits up on the top, largely out of view, and the wetlands. Our strategy here in building the garage and applying for the variance is that we believe the proposed location provides the least disturbance to the landscape. If we were to try to put that garage, there's another 500 feet along Birch Drive in the wetlands where we could put a garage, but then we're cutting trees and putting in a significant amount of fill. So our feeling is that to preserve as much of the forest surrounding the area as possible, we'd like to keep the garage where it's at. There's currently a parking pad there. And so the garage fits neatly. It's where the cars are parked today. The front of the garage set back from the road by 50 feet. And also neatly, the garage in that location will be largely hidden by this big big push up of bedrock that forms the top of the hill there on Birch Drive. And so the garage is not going to be visible. You'd have to be basically on top of right at our driveway to see the garage. In fact, I'll put it out there that our garage becomes not the least visible garage on Birch Drive, but among the lesser visible garages. There are a lot of other structures on Birch Drive which are all fitting within the setback, but are in areas with less trees and are a lot more visible. So I'll put it out there. I think our garage is going to be largely hidden as built. And it's not a big garage, 22 by 24, 14 foot high. So we're trying to keep this as modest, you might say, and as inconspicuous as possible. So yeah, thanks for your consideration. I'll pass it back to you, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right, thank you. Okay, at this point, I'll open up to the public. Anyone from the public that wishes to comment on Roger Barton's request for a variance from the setback to Birch Drive for construction of the garage. Now is your opportunity. Anyone who wishes to comment? Any comments on Roger Barton's request for a variance? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and we'll turn to commissioners for their comments. And I'll start again first because I just happened to, I was there yesterday, I guess it was yesterday afternoon. I was there and can pretty much echo everything Mr. Barton has said. I didn't see his house. I went past it, didn't know it was there. You got to show me the path to climb up the hill to find the house. And having my background in highway construction in public works leads me to not like variances for garages very much because I like everything to be back away from the road. Day comes, you got to rebuild the road. You like to have a little room. You know, this is as far back as he is reasonably going to be able to push this. I think he's back as far as the code will let him to his septic tank, and it's wetland on the other side and rock on the other. I don't know what else he would do. If I was him, I'd be in with the same request. So, any other comments or questions from commissioners?
I'd like to make a motion to approve it with the conditions listed.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Maschenbacher to approve with the conditions as listed. Do we have a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay,
Second.
Adam seconded that one. If I can find you on my list, Adam. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call the roll.
I'd like to
Excuse me.
add a comment.
Is that Charlie? Okay.
Huh?
No, who is that?
That's me, Jerry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jerry. I didn't get you there.
I visited the site too and understood the practical difficulties that the owner faced. And was a little surprised at objections to it, but I'm really pleased to hear that our resolution has been come forth and happy that they've solid neighborhood after all.
Yeah, I'll say, Gary, that while I was there, the lady who had written the letter complaining was there as well and was meeting with Roger and talking about it and was said at that point, oh, we have no issues. This is all fine. Once she understood what was really happening. So yeah, the neighborhood's happy. Okay, I'll call the roll. Adam.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Judy.
Aye.
I'll be aye myself. Charlie.
Aye.
Mr. Barton, you have your variance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. We'll move on to our next item here is Alfred and Norma Olson Trust. Request for a variance from the shoreline setback to construct a deck and patio area on property adjacent to Gull Lake. Legal description is part of Government Lot 5, Section 30, Township 66 North, Range 4 West. PID is 4963043225. Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is case 2021-13B. I do not see an Olson representative this evening unless Ms. Dukirk is there, but I believe she's here for Rockwood. Is that right, Heidi?
I did meet with him on site yesterday as well.
Okay, so, well, we'll proceed. And as I mentioned, this is case 2021-13B. This property has been in the Olson family since at least 1965 and includes 1 acre and approximately 390 feet of Gull Lake shoreline. Parcel is entirely contained within the Lakeshore Residential Zone District. LSR structural and septic absorption area setbacks are 100 feet, 10-foot side lot and 25-foot rear lot side setbacks apply in the LSR overlay. Again, a definition for your consideration. Setback is defined as the minimum horizontal distance between where a structure may be placed and the normal high water mark, road center line, road right of way, front side or rear lot line, well, sewage, soil absorption and or soil treatment area, That's Article 2, Section 2.56 of the zoning ordinance. A structure is anything more than 30 inches high, placed, constructed, erected, including portable buildings, manufactured homes, and mobile homes. Fences, utility poles, lawn lights, antenna, and related minor equipment shall not be considered structures. And then steep slopes are lands having average slopes of 12% or more as measured over horizontal distances of 50 feet or more that are not bluffs. Including criteria for the decision that should be part of your packet, and also criteria for the Lakeshore Residential Zone District, excerpts from the land use guide plan, and our considerations for the Olson request. This property has been under Olson ownership since 1965. It includes 1 acre and approximately 390 feet of west and north property frontage on Gull Lake. The parcel is located within the LSR zone district. Steep slopes are part of the property's landscape, but do not meet the threshold of bluff resources. Property includes a primary and secondary residence. A patio deck array are connected to the primary building. There is a notable lack of regulatory involvement on the parcel, the exception being a 1985 variance to construct an addition to the cabin based upon a shoreline setback of 72 feet. For your reference, I did include that variance document in your packet. Given the 1985 variance, we assume that any outstanding, non-compliant or unpermitted property components would have been identified by then Office of Planning and Zoning. Conversely, that documentation did not appear, and as such, there is not enough evidence to devolve the property into an after-the-fact process. Conversation with the applicant suggests that most of the property build-out occurred shortly after the Olson's titled ownership began, or before the permitting process came into the county's regulatory orbit. The Olson request is for construction of a deck patio area between the cabin and primary residence. Precise square footage was not identified in the application. Construction plans were enclosed, but a land services extrapolation places a construction footprint at under 250 square feet. The nearest shoreline approach is 92 feet, which lessens the concern of an accurate structural footprint, but nevertheless does not remove the need for variance relief. Proposed construction will not impact the shared water resource, and its location represents the best site on the property that would not involve significant landscape alterations. Given the deck is intended for family connectivity and access for the generational mix of the Olson family, it may be viewed as reasonable within a difficult and topographically challenging property. Following conditions may be relevant to this variance request. 1, no construction or site prep may be initiated until a land use permit is approved by Land Services. 2, the property shall conform to Minnesota Rule 7080 and the Cook County Septic Ordinance. 3, a septic inspection shall be necessary of the property. 4, no clearing of vegetation within the shoreline setback. Construction may be closer than 92 feet from the ordinary high water elevation of Gull Lake. We sent out 21 letters of notification, and we received no comments.
Thank you, Bill. Is there anyone here representing the Olsons? With you, Bill, I didn't see anyone I think would be, but hearing none, I'll open the hearing up to the public for anyone that wishes to comment then on the Alfred and Norma Olson Trust request for a variance from the shoreline on Gull Lake for a deck or patio. Anyone that wishes to address the Olson request? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing, turn to commissioners for their comments. Oh, I know, usually, oh wait, I'll jump right in again. I just happened to be there yesterday and Mr. Olson was there and we chatted and he has a situation, I kind of smile, it's not too dissimilar to Mr. Barton's. He has a knob of rock, it's flatter, but he's got a little knob of rock between two cabins and he wants to put a little low wooden patio on top of that rock, right in between the two, so they can both utilize it. Seemed kind of like a no-brainer to me, but I told him we'll discuss it today. So that's what I saw yesterday, and I certainly support what he's asking for. Anyone else wish to comment or have questions about this?
It does look like a reasonable request to me.
Yeah, when I spoke to him yesterday, I'm not surprised he's not here. He just thought, yeah, I put in the application. You guys are going to give me a permit and that's that. You didn't think you had to really advocate for it. And I guess myself, I'm not sure that he had to either because it looks like, as I say, pretty straightforward request. Other thoughts, comments, motions? Gary, you're muted. Jerry, you're talking, but you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, I gotta push a button every once in a while. I make a motion to approve with the conditions attached. I think it's a no-brainer. It's just, yes, that's appropriate.
Very good, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Charlie. The motion was by Jerry. We have a second by Charlie. Further discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call the roll. Adam.
Aye.
Jerry.
Aye.
Judy.
Aye.
I'll be aye myself. Charlie.
Aye.
Well, Mr. Olson, you got your variance. You'll have to tell them about it though. Okay, moving on. The third item tonight on this agenda is Nicole Dogwill. Request for a variance from the shoreline setback to construct a deck on property adjacent to Devil Track River and Lake Superior. Legal description is Lot 1, Devil Track River Cluster Development, PID 5314000010. Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see Ms. Dogwill is on our screen set up this evening. Her case is 2021-15V. And this is a 0.10 acre parcel, and it is one of 6 residential units in the Devil's Track River Cluster Development. Property was purchased by the applicant in 2020. The parcel has 92 feet of frontage on the Devil Track River, but is outside the vegetation line setback of Lake Superior. A couple of definitions for you. Deck attached is a horizontal platform, any part of which is more than 12 inches off the ground, except railings or seats, attached or adjacent and functionally related to a building or recreational vehicle. Cook County Zoning Ordinance, Section 2.30. Setback, again, is the minimum horizontal distance between where a structure may be placed in the normal high water mark, road center line, road right-of-way, front side or rear lot line, well, sewage, soil absorption, or soil treatment area, Section 2.76. And the ordinary high water level is a reference to the boundary of public waters and wetlands, which is determined as the margin where aquatic vegetation changes to terrestrial vegetation as caused by the highest water level, which has been maintained for a sufficient length of time to leave evidence on the landscape. The level of water at this margin is the ordinary high water elevation. Other terms in this ordinance, which shall have equal definition, are shoreline, normal high water mark, Section 2.62 of the Cook County Zoning Ordinance. Again, criteria for decisions, I included the single family R1 zone district criteria, and I will move right to considerations. Property was purchased in 2020 and includes 10.10 acres within the Devil's Track River Cluster Development, a planned unit development, PUD. The dwelling was constructed in 1935 and as such preceded the PUD by nearly half a century. Given its long-standing presence, a document history for the property is lacking, although a 1990 variance allowing a roof pitch change at 0 feet from the Devil Track River suggests, if nothing else, the structure's immediate proximity to the water resource. Within the relatively recent history of the PUD, 6 variances have been documented, all of them for relief from either the vegetation line of Lake Superior or the Devil Track River. As a PUD, a community-based septic system is integral to daily function of the properties. Septic compliance was recently demonstrated by the 2019 installation of a new septic treatment system. While the PUD allows relief from some of the county's oversight, its declarations and covenants provide internal guidance for property enhancement. Notably, the PUD has an architectural review committee whose function is to regulate the external design, appearance, use, location, and maintenance of the lots and the improvements therein in such a manner as to preserve and enhance values and to maintain a harmonious relationship among structures and the natural vegetation and topography. That is section 2 from the declarations and covenants of the Devil's Track Plan Unit Development. PUD oversight is further clarified by no clearing, grading, building improvements, alterations, modifications, repairs, change of paint colors, or other work which in any way alters any lot or the exterior of any improvements located wherein from its natural or improved state existing on the date such lot was first conveyed in fee by developer to an owner shall be made or done without the approval of the Architectural Review Committee. Who can argue with that? Okay, so, excuse me here, I lost my place. Okay, excuse me, I apologize for that. These declaration excerpts provide a long-winded cut and paste way of suggesting that construction of the proposed dog-wheel deck cannot be forwarded to the county without the approval of the PUD itself. That internal approval has already been received, and that was enclosed in your packet, leaving the variance process in the hands of the Board of Adjustment. Given the long-standing presence of the unadulterated dwelling, the conservative construction of a deck should not prove impactful to the resource or the residential landscape. From a regulatory perspective, we view this as a reasonable structural expansion with practical difficulties inherent to property ownership within the PUD. To prove the following conditions may be attached to this variance request. 1, a land use permit shall be necessary for deck construction. 2, the deck shall not exceed 224 square feet based upon plans approved by the Board of Adjustment at its June 9th, 2021 meeting. 3, no component of the deck shall be closer than 24 feet from the ordinary high water level of the Devil Track River. And 4, setback distances shall be verified by land services before and after construction. We sent out 24 letters of notification and received no comments.
Thank you, Bill. Ms. Steiwell, do you want to add anything to Bill's narrative before we open it up to public comment?
No, not much. Just to thank Bill for working with me on this and the commission to evaluating this. The deck, where the deck is going to go is it abuts the main entranceway of the cabin, and there's nothing there right now, so it's just a drop. We have my mother-in-law owns one of the other cottages, and they use a walker, so they really can't access the house at this point until we have some kind of deck structure. And I think it's a relatively modest deck, comparatively speaking. So that's all I would like to add.
Very good, thank you. At this point, I'm going to open the public hearing then for public comment. Anyone that would like to address the Nicole Dogwill's request for a variance from the shoreline setback for a deck, Devil Track River and Lake Superior, now is your opportunity. Any public comments on the Nicole Dogwill narrative, I'm reading Bill's comments. Nicole Dog Will's request for a variance. Now is your opportunity if you wish to speak. And hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and we'll turn to commissioners. I guess I'll say the same thing because I just made the tour of all of them. I think you were not home. I visited your property. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. I think I maybe met your mother-in-law because as soon as I got in the yard, they were checking me out. Who's that guy?
Yeah, that's
over
right. There are watch people. Yeah.
Yeah, they watched it pretty good. And then the neighbors told me that the whole neighborhood is happy and there is no issues. It appears that way from the letters that were sent out. We got no comments. So, makes perfectly good sense to me. Anyone else have comments, Gary?
Yeah, first of all, that's one of my favorite places that I pass by in the county and say, well, if I could live there, I would.
It's a great place. Thank you.
It is just an amazing little location. I didn't know a lot of the this group identity to it, but you know, it's interesting. But it seems that they have a higher standard of protecting what is than the county does, and if they approve it, we can't do any less.
Yeah, we're here to protect the water resource, and this will do no damage to the water resource, I would believe. So. Other thoughts, comments, motions?
I would make a motion to approve with the 4 conditions as written.
Yeah.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Laboda to approve with the
I'll second it.
conditions, and we have a second by Commissioner Henniker. We have other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call the roll. Adam.
Aye.
Jerry.
Aye.
And Judy.
Aye.
I'll be aye myself. And Charlie.
Aye.
Very good. Your variance is granted, ma'am.
Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I gotta agree with Jerry though, that I've never been at your house before, and it's really a cool little spot you got there.
It is. We feel very lucky.
I love it.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are on to our last item for the evening, is Mile 31 Holdings LLC. I have another page here somewhere. Well, I should have a page 2 and I don't have it. Oh, give me one moment and I'll get to the top of my sheet over here and I've got it. I love this electronic world we're working in. Okay. Mile 31. You know, I don't have it because it just gives the heading on our agenda and it does not have the introductive piece there, Bill. That's why I can't read it to you.
So are you?
Yeah. We just don't have that. That little
The
piece,
introductory?
Yeah, a little introductory for Mile 31.
How about on your?
Here, I got it here, Bill. I found it here now. Excuse me. Mile 31 Holdings LLC request for variances from the shoreline setback to reconstruct decks on 4 Rockwood Lodge cabins on property adjacent to Poplar Lake. Legal description is part of government lots 9 and 10, section 1, township 64 north, range 2 west, PID 51 401 4210. And now it's your turn, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't see representatives from Mile 31 Holdings. It's a busy time at the resort, evidently. This is case 2021-16V, and their property includes Rockwood Lodge and Outfitters, which they purchased, the LLC purchased in 2015. The lodge, which was originally Camp Rockwood, was established in 1926. Its current configuration includes 8 cabins, a bunkhouse, and the lodge building. Construction of the cabins has occurred throughout the resort's history. The property is situated within the Resort Commercial Residential or RCR Zone District. Poplar Lake is categorized as a recreational development lake, and newly created properties abutting RD lakes must adhere to 100-foot structural and 100-foot septic absorption area setbacks. A couple of repeat definitions for you. A deck which is attached is defined as a horizontal platform, any part of which is more than 12 inches off the ground, except railings or seats attached or adjacent, and functionally related to a building or recreational vehicle, section 2.30 of the Cook County zoning ordinance. Setback is the minimum horizontal distance between where a structure may be placed and the normal high water mark, road center line, road right of way, front side or rear lot line, well, sewage, soil absorption, and or soil treatment area. And again, as a repetitive definition, the ordinary high water level is included, which is effectively that transition from aquatic to terrestrial vegetation. I included the RCR zone district criteria, and we'll move right into considerations. Rockwood Lodge has been a fixture on the north shore of Poplar Lake since the 1920s. The resort offers a diverse mix of cabins and other shared lodging accommodations and outfitting services for trips into the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. The resort is situated on 11.3 RCR acres with approximately 1,550 feet of Poplar Lake shoreline. Rockwood overnight operations include 8 cabins and a 4-unit bunkhouse. Construction of the resort was initiated in 1926, with cabin construction invariably occurring from the 1930s to the 1980s. The bunkhouse was moved to the property as part of an ownership transfer in 1998. Based upon our review, the lack of permits and variances suggests a largely pre-ordinance build-out on the property. The only regulatory records found were for a 1997 after-the-fact variance and after-the-fact land use permit for construction of a laundry facility within the shoreline setback. Although a pump tank associated with cabin 12 was deemed non-compliant during a 2021 septic inspection, the property has otherwise demonstrated septic compliance under current ownership. As with most variances, today's practical difficulties are generally established by the property's history, and the Rockwood parcel has already seen nearly a century's worth of use. Gone is the original Gunflint Trail, shifted to its current location north of the resort. Cabins constructed from the 30s to the 80s are generally nestled near the Poplar Lake shoreline and are afforded designation as continuing structural nonconformities. That's based on section 9.02 of the zoning ordinance. As suggested, Land Services has no record of construction of the cabins or decks, and we assume they were built as part of an owner-generated enhancement of the lodge's guest experience. Without records for construction, it is the county's preference to ensure new construction adheres to the current zoning regulations, including viable permitting and variance processes. The applicants are asking for variance relief from the shoreline setback to construct new decking on 4 of the 8 cabins. A 112 square foot deck is proposed for cabin 3, a 224 square foot deck for cabin 4, a 256 square foot deck for cabin 6, and a 128 square foot deck for cabin 9. 3-foot wide walkways connect cabins 4, 6, and 9 to parking access away from the shoreline. Given the long-standing presence and commercial visibility of Rockwood, reconstruction of the decks within current regulatory constraints makes sense. New deck construction will contribute to a more favorable and a safer guest experience at the resort without impacting the Poplar Lake shared water resource. Excuse me. If approved, the following conditions may be applied to this permit. 1, all permitting requirements of Cook County include land use and septic must be established prior to the initiation of construction. 2, the property shall conform to Minnesota Rule 7080 in the Cook County Septic Ordinance. 3, construction allowances for the 4 cabins shall be as followed. as follows. Cabin 3, the deck area may not exceed 112 square feet or a 14 by 8 foot perimeter footprint. The deck shall be no closer than 21 feet from the Poplar Lake shoreline. Cabin 4, the deck may not exceed 224 square feet or a 28 by 8 foot perimeter footprint. The deck shall be no closer than 17 feet from the Poplar Lake shoreline. Cabin 6, the deck may not exceed 256 square feet or a 32 by 8 foot perimeter footprint. The deck shall be no closer than 74 feet from the Poplar Lake shoreline. And finally, cabin 9, the deck may not exceed 128 square feet or a 14 by 8 perimeter footprint. The deck shall be no closer than 9 feet from the Poplar Lake shoreline. Those distances in construction are presented in the, in I believe it was the enclosed site depiction that we prepared in services. We sent out 17 notices and had no comments.
Thank you, Bill. And there isn't anyone, unless I don't see him on my computer, there's no one here but us, is there? No one here to represent the Rockwood Mile 31 Holdings in this matter. Not hearing anybody. I'll open it to public comment and we'll talk about it. Anyone in public that wishes to speak to this variance request for Mile 31 Holdings for decks on Poplar Lake, now is your opportunity. I don't think we have anyone here, do we? No. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. I'll say I don't remember the man's name, actually, I should, but I met him yesterday out there and looked at each of these decks with him. And this is a good public health service we're doing here. They're falling off the buildings and he knows it. And he wants to fix them. And as he says, I want to do it right. These things are sitting, one leg's on the stone, one's on the stump, and some of them are fairly high. They're not in good shape. So, Bill, I do have a question for you about that. If I had one of those decks and could I not just take the railing off and fix my railing and take off that deck board and replace that deck board, and pretty soon I got a new deck and I don't go through any of this process?
Well, according to FAIR methodology, yes.
I mean, seriously, what he wants to do is replace all the old wood with new wood. You know, he really just wants to do it right.
Yeah, no, and that's a good question, and that's another kind of an ambiguous area in the zoning.
Yeah.
That if you do a systematic deconstruction followed by construction, you have to start over from square one.
Yeah.
If you are just removing decking without an expansion, you don't need a permit, you don't need a variance. The other component here is that section 9.03 allows decking with attached to existing continuing structural nonconformities to build a deck, provided it isn't within the shore impact zone. So there's like three parameters that are involved there. We encourage people, if they're going to deconstruct and then construct, to just do the regulatory right path, which is typically.
And I just want to give this owner credit. He is trying to do the right thing. He's asking for a permit because, frankly, if it was me, I might have just started fixing decks. And he says, no, let's get it done right. I want to put it in the footings and do it properly. So
I'll put that on our enforcement list. Check.
All right. Yeah. Don't put my address in there. Okay. Other commissioners, anyone have questions or comments regarding this one?
I'd support being able to replace the decks.
Yeah. Yeah. But I take that as a motion, Judy?
I'll make a motion to approve this
Thank you.
variance with the conditions listed.
Okay. We have a motion. Second was by Adam.
Yep.
Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call the roll. Adam?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Am I myself? Charlie? Charlie's muted.
Aye.
There you are. Okay, Mr. I don't remember his name, Bill, but now Mile 31 Holdings has their variance. We just need one more motion then tonight is to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Henniker got that in quickly.
I'll second.
Second by Judy. I'm sure there's no other discussion, so I'll just call the roll. Adam?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Judy,
Aye.
and Charlie. Charlie, yeah, Charlie not, yeah, he's there. Okay, we are adjourned, folks. Thank you.
And it's earlier than we anticipated.
It is. We had a couple withdrawals there. We didn't have our folks from Tofty, and they, I don't want to say about who can talk long, but okay. And the words I'm hearing is that next month we might be back in the courthouse. Huh?
Yeah, we will.
That'll be good. That'll be good. I want Bill, your connection was working. All of your words were coming through, but you just would talk like this, and then you'd speed up and say something. It was kind of cute because you'd be silent for a minute, and I wait and know you picked up where you left off 5 seconds ago. But so we got all your words, just not very clear.
Well, it's the thought that counts, not
Yeah,
words.
that's right. We knew what you thought. So, all right, folks. Thanks for the evening.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.